Okay, thanks, Marty. As Marty said, my name is Mandy, and I'm the Director of the Hunting Heritage Programs here at the NWTF. Teresa is actually our Hunting Heritage Programs Coordinator, and together I guess we have over 20 years of experience with working with these programs. We also have two of our staff members that aren't on the webinar with us today, but they play a big role in our Hunting Heritage Programs too. They're listed here, Travis Sumner and Charter Boney. And then we also have two summer interns. So right now we have 6 people here at headquarters who are working to save the hunt through our archery program. And I'd like to start just by saying that we appreciate this opportunity and we're happy to share our archery journey. I like to start with the why. So I would like to share with you the NWTF's mission. We started in 1973, and since that time we've had the same mission, which is dedicated to the conservation of the wild turkey and preservation of our hunting heritage. So we have been the Hunting Heritage Programs have been part of this mission from the very beginning, and we feel that we have to do what's necessary to keep our hunting heritage alive. In 1981, the NWTF started the JACE program. And in 1998, we added Women in the Outdoors, and then we launched Sportsmen in 2000. And you'll hear us refer to Hunting Heritage Programs several times, and that encompasses all 3 of these programs. We both started out working, I worked with Jake, and Teresa worked with Women in the Outdoors. And then later on, we've decided to put all of these under one umbrella and run them in a similar fashion. Right now, we have over 1,000 events a year, and over about 100,000 participants a year. We've also been involved with initiatives like Families Afield, where we're working to break down barriers so that people can try hunting with mentors. In 2013, the organization launched Save the Habitat, Save the Hunt. And as part of this initiative, NWTF pledged to recruit or reactivate 1.5 million hunters in the next 10 years. And so our Hunting Heritage Programs are responsible for this goal. You can see we also have 2 other goals here: to conserve or enhance 4 million acres of upland wildlife habitat, and then to open access to 500,000 new acres for hunting. And so far, we're 4 years into this initiative, and we're nearly halfway to each of our goals here. We have felt like having R3 as part of our national initiative has been wonderful for our programs because we have 230,000 members who love goals and they love to tackle them, and I feel like we'll reach our goal probably before that 10-year mark. That's just a little bit of history about how the NWTF has had Hunting Heritage Programs at the forefront since the beginning. We partnered up with the Council of Advanced Hunting and Shooting Sports and the Wildlife Management Institute in 2014, I think. And we hold a position on the council board. Our boss, Becky Humphreys, who's our CEO, is in that position. And then I have been part of the work group that helped to write the plan. So I've been immersed in R3 since 2014, and Teresa has helped build these programs along the way as well. We give a lot of that credit to Becky Humphreys. Becky is for us. In making R3 a priority, Becky was the director of Michigan DNR, so she realized early on how important our role was in R3 and has made that a priority. So just to give you a little bit of history and how we got started, our first step, in the summer of 2014, Matt Dunphy came and trained our staff. And at that time, we outlined a plan to train the rest of our volunteers and staff with a national workshop later that year. We mapped out our programs, and I'll tell you, we had some tough conversations during that first meeting. We've come a long way since then, but we worked with our chapters and our partners to integrate the national plan into their framework, and hopefully they're more effective at passing on those traditions of safe and ethical hunting. So from there, I'm going to have Teresa talk a little bit about how we implemented.
So in the fall of 2013, and this is the same year that we launched Save the Habitat, Save the Hunt, we created a new volunteer position within our state. Called them the State Save the Hunt Coordinator. We currently have 35 of these located across the country, and they help us carry the flag for R3 in their respective states. These volunteers work with NWTF staff in the field, the local chapters, wildlife agencies, and other partners to help secure mentor training opportunities. In cases that local chapters have not hosted these type of events, and so our coordinators are there to offer assistance and help them get started. We are very fortunate for these volunteers that we have. They have been a tremendous help for us in the couple years that they have been on board, and they're certainly helping us move the needle for our career across the country.
Okay, so we mentioned that we hosted a workshop in 2014. We were the first NGO to bring our state and federal wildlife partners together along with our volunteer base to evaluate our efforts. And we had very good representation. We had 33 states that were represented. I think we had 36 representatives from those states, and 16 state agencies were here, along with about 8 of our partners. And those could be sponsors or groups that we work with. And I'll tell you, we were very nervous about this workshop. Matt Dunphy can tell you, Teresa and I were fretting because we felt as though we were telling people that what they had done for the past 30 years hadn't been as effective as what we thought. And we were very pleasantly surprised. Our attendees were so engaged and so open to listen and learn, and then to really take a hard look at our program. We broke the group into regional work groups where we went through the mapping process. You can see Matt's famous sheet on the wall there in the hotel. I think we had to pay extra money for all the glue we left on the wall. So we went through the mapping process, and what we discovered, well, we wanted to see where our programs fall on the outdoor recreation model. And the slide that I'm showing now, this is the results from those regional breakout groups. You can't really see what programs are listed here, but what you can tell is that the majority of them fall on the recruitment side. Some regions were a little more lenient than others, a little more generous there with some of their programming. But we came away knowing that the majority of our programs were focused on recruitment, with few opportunities that reached into mentored hunting or that continuation with support stage. We also came away from this with the positive outcome that we are able to provide as an NGO that social support that's critical for people as they move through this process. So that was one of the positive things that came out of the workshop.
During our workshop, it also became obvious that we need to work more closely with our state and federal agencies to align our R3 efforts. So although we've historically partnered with state and federal agencies, we've not always collaborated on it. And we found that in many areas we're duplicating some of the things that we're doing. I think we are now starting to work on concert with participant opportunities and a series of events hosted by multiple partners. I think in years past we've tried to be all things to all people. We really can't do that. We are effective at teaching people how to turkey hunt, but we really feel like other groups like Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever would be the group to teach someone how to pheasant or quail hunt. Ducks Unlimited, duck hunting, etc. So I think we're starting to see more of this taking place across the states within our chapters. In 2014, 4 of the largest conservation organizations, that would be Ducks Unlimited, NWTF, Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, signed a memorandum of understanding. We were really excited to do this. The MOUs recognize the potential to work closer as an organization. That was a big step for us. Last year we partnered with Pheasants and Quail Forever with their Pheasants on Forever workshop. It was held in Potosi, Missouri, and some of the staff here went there to participate in that event. And it was a great experience to work alongside another conservation organization for common cause. One of the things that someone said this either at this event or before, that you have to turn your cat backwards. And really that's what I saw. People didn't so much as connect themselves with NWTF or Pheasants or Quail Forever. We were just working together for a common cause. And that's really what it's all about. And that's how we're going to make a difference with our initiative as well. It's not just an NWTF thing, it's collectively a conservation thing. Because of that, we're going to team up again in September. Really excited to host a Partnering for Success event here in Edgewood, South Carolina. We are bringing together CF, QF, Ducks Unlimited, and hopefully some other groups for a Train the Trainer event. I'd love to invite you all to come to this, and we can talk more about that at the conclusion of the presentation. This is going to be, like I said, a Train the Trainer event, and we're hoping that some great things, including our 3 objectives and being able to bring our other volunteers along can take place during this time.
So early on in our R3 involvement, one of the things that we heard from state agencies was that the greatest need was to have a person in the agency be in the R3 seat. And yet it was hard to hire and to add on employees. Many of you have heard Matt Dunphy famously say the most important thing is a butt in the seat. So this stirred a group of people, including state agencies and other conservation organizations, to come together and pool their resources to hire R3 state coordinators. And NWTF has been a part of that. These R3 coordinators, their primary job is to work with stakeholders, including the state agency itself, NGOs, volunteers for local conservation groups, corporate partners, all the groups, the stakeholders together to promote hunting and shooting sports within their state. So I want to go over here with you on this slide here. Right now we currently have 4 R3 coordinators in place. And I'm going to go through each one and tell you a little bit about how they're different. And then we have letters of commitment for 2018 with Wisconsin and Arkansas. So we're excited to add those 2 positions on as well. Typically, we have provided a 25% PR match for these positions, and they're usually a 3-year contract. But I will tell you that each position is unique, along with the partners that are involved and the objectives for each job. So, and I know we have some of these folks here with us today on the webinar, so hopefully they can chime in here at the end as well. So for Georgia, our very first R3 coordinator is Charles Evans, and Charles he's unique in that he's been here years, so he's had a full year to experience this position and all of the challenges and success that have been related to that. And with the fact that he has a year under his belt, he's already accomplished quite a few things. So we'll look at that too. He's really blazed a trail for R3 coordinators. He was one of the first folks to set down the action plan for his state. and he's done a lot of work targeting new audiences. So Charles has listed out, here are some of his year one accomplishments. You can see he has not let any grass grow under his feet during this year. And so he's updated his objectives here. He's going to continue this work, and he is helping train not only the volunteers and folks in his state, but he's helped to train others along the way, which I think is pretty important for these positions. So for Michigan, we have no stranger to the NWTF. Steve Sharp has been a regional director for us for over 20 years. Steve's position is different in that he is primarily funded by the Glasson Foundation, and then some of Steve's objectives are pretty different when compared to a position like Charles. Steve has a lot of emphasis on shooting programs and growing those, and then he's also developing the mentored hunt programs as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about both of these positions and some of the work that they've accomplished here in a few minutes. Our newest R3 coordinator is Michaela Ray from Nebraska, and Michaela has spent these first couple of months assessing what's currently happening with R3 in the state, and then she spent a lot of time forming stakeholder groups and designing programming, filling those gaps, and creating some committees to do work there. One of the neat things that Michaela has planned is they are going to do a peer-to-peer mentor program with the university there, so that you're being mentored by someone your own age. I think that'll be really interesting to see how that goes. In Alabama, this position is also different in that our state chapter sponsored Justin Grider, his position here. And so they saw a need for the position and were able to step in and provide that funding. And Justin is part of the Hunter Ed team there in Alabama, and Charles helped us train Justin, and he's doing a great job. So we'll talk more about their programming as we move along here.
NWTF has some great corporate sponsors that have helped us in our R3 efforts as well. Alps Outdoors is one. They are providing their NWTF Grand Slam turkey vests to help us incentivize chapters to host mentored hunts and also to report afterwards. This has really been a huge success, and we appreciate their sponsorship.
And if I can just add with that, one of our greatest challenges for Teresa and I has been this reporting piece. And I don't know if everybody can relate to this, but with NWTF early on in those early years, we didn't keep records of what was going on. We just didn't do a good job of collecting that data. And so this has kind of been a new concept for us to ask for our volunteers to gather this information. And having coordinated events in the past, I'm sure you can relate to when that event's over that you really don't feel like completing a bunch of reports and data. So we're looking at different ways to accomplish that. But having a sponsor step up and help us has been instrumental to getting it done.
Yeah, and what a better way with hunting vests too.
Yeah, and
turkey hunting and then have a vest.
And they're using those for some of the chapters are, allowing the participants to use them and give them back. Some of them have used them for fundraising to do more mentored hunts. So we've seen a lot of creativity there with how they've handled it.
And Cabela's is another one that's been a long-standing partner of NWTF. We recently was awarded NWTF funding for adult hunter recruitment programs through the Cabela's Outdoor Fund, which we are more than thankful to receive. For many years, the majority of hunter recruitment efforts across the country only focused on youth, and this is also true for NWTF as well. Responsive Management did a study with 40 outreach groups a while back, and NWTF was one of those. Our Women in the Outdoors, Wheelan, and Jake's program were right within the study. And then we found through this survey that most of the folks that attended our event came from hunting or shooting families. So basically, they would likely already hunt with or without our events. So we're in no way discounting the youth events that we have happening. We see them continually be in addition to our outreach events. But we see that we need to engage new audiences in addition to youth. So now we're starting to target more directly family units and adult women, things like that.
We've spent the majority of these first couple of years educating our volunteers and putting people in place to assist with the efforts. So, now we're at a point where we're asking ourselves what's next. And after we had that R3 workshop in 2014, we set a goal then to offer more programming that connects new audiences to opportunities to try hunting, and then continue along that path. So that brings us to where we are now in our next step. Our chapters are targeting non-traditional audiences. We, as Teresa mentioned, we know that we haven't done the best job of reaching beyond ourselves and our children. So we're looking at these new audiences, as she mentioned, and we're seeing that the advantages of working with an adult is that they have the resources to come back. They have a car and money, and it just is much easier for an adult to get involved in hunting than a youth who's relying on someone else. The other thing we're seeing is that these folks are becoming socially engaged, which is so important along that process. So they can help mentor others, including their children. That's one thing we've seen with these young audiences, is that they have kids that they can get involved as well.
So we found that there's multiple ways to find these adult participants. One example is from Michigan. Our R3 coordinator, Steve Sharp, hosts events to introduce youth and their families to shooting through the Jake State Game Range that we have here at various state parks. He gathers their information once they shoot, and he follows up with them with invitations to events that take them along the path of becoming a hunter. So mentor hunt activities. And we found that these are non-hunting families that come to the state parks for the most part. Another example of NWTF chapters and state agencies that are using is recruiting young and diverse adults through the local ball movement. And I am sure that everyone on here is familiar with this. The new emerging adult hunter who has an interest in hunting as a way to provide a healthy, ethical meat and lifestyle for their family and friends. So we see this taking shape and increasing by large across the country. You may have noticed in a recent report from Responsive Management that most hunters are in it for the meat and not for the trophies or the sport alone. So this is something that we're learning and we're trying to put within our hunting activities and be able to share. Let's see. Move on. Okay. Here's another example from Georgia. Our R3 coordinator, Charles Evans, secured a booth at a local farmer's market near a college campus. And on their table, they offered deer jerky to anyone interested in tasting wild game. And while they spoke to the folks that walked up, they shared with them about an upcoming introduction to deer hunting class. And what I loved about this, they created a flyer that contained information on the class on one side, and then on the back was a nutritional guide on deer meat. So we have a copy of this on our NWTF webpage if you're interested, and we would like to continue to provide this type of resource to our chapters with nutritional guides for turkey hunt, pheasant hunt, or dove meat, those things like that. So this is a good way to bring in those type of locavore folks who are in it for the meat. And the last example I'll offer is from a partnership that we have with Minnesota DNR. And this is a partnership that started over 14 years ago. Minnesota coordinates turkey hunts, and then NWTF with our state chapter and local chapters in the state take care of the mentoring and instruction for the event. So they actually provide the property for the hunt and mentor them. And this partnership is a great example of transitioning programs, because when they started out, this hunt was mainly targeted on youth, as we were talking about just a minute ago. But as we've all learned about R3, the audience has now expanded to include women and also adults. So this partnership has been beneficial for both the state through license purchases and also for the chapters involved, because we're recruiting new members and energizing the existing ones. It's also expanded to offer participants opportunities to hunt other species with other conservation groups. So that's a win-win all the way around.
So you can see that we've been piloting programs all across the nation. Our R3 and Save the Hunt coordinators are adding new models and targeting new audiences, and especially giving folks a repeated or multiple experiences hunting in conjunction with other partners. And we're doing this here at our Hunting Heritage Center in Edgeville, South Carolina as well. That's helped us to experience it hands-on, ourselves, so that we can share that back, as Teresa mentioned, with our local chapters. We feel like we're reaching an untapped source of folks, of license buyers and conservationists, and feel pretty good about that shift from focusing mostly on our sons and daughters to now on the audience. As we mentioned, the Cabela's Outdoor Fund has been very helpful to allow us to really test this out in a couple of states, and then we'll roll that out to other states as we learn from it. We're using small cohorts because the research shows that usually 10 to 15 people in a group are most successful. And we're looking for new or reactivated hunters, usually ages 18 to 44 who haven't had much hunting experience. And then we take them through a series of educational workshops followed by a mentored hunt. And we do this with the help of partners. So as you see these different hunts listed here, we pull in partners to help us, whether it's South Carolina DNR or a different organization like Pheasants Forever or QDMA. By taking the participants through this series, they're getting multiple opportunities. And we feel like this method has been really successful with the college students. We've had a couple of experiences with Clemson University students here locally, and one of the things that we've tried to do a better job of is evaluating the programming that we have, and we're doing that prior to, during, and after the event. With Clemson, I'll give you a specific example. These students were taken on a deer hunt with South Carolina DNR first, and then came to us for the turkey hunt. And one of the things that their evaluation revealed to us is we didn't spend enough time teaching them where they can hunt after our experience. So even though we did hunt on some land, some public land, they don't live here. So they need more information about where they can go back at Clemson and hunt. And so as we bring them into the next hunt, which is the dove hunt, we'll make sure that we have that information for them. But these evaluations have been powerful. Before an event, they help you determine who you want to attend, if you're using it as filtering, or they give you information about the group and how much experience they've had and knowledge. And then it really helps you determine what you need to change afterwards. And we're taking a look at data. As I mentioned, we haven't done the best job in the past with data, so we are trying to encourage people to report and get as much back from as we can on a national level, and we're providing our state chapters with a way to get that information on a quarterly and sometimes even a monthly basis. And that has proven to be very helpful to help them see, a lot of times there's great activity going on, but we're not reporting it. So the dashboards have been a wonderful addition. The other thing that we have two pilot programs going on, one with Iowa and one with Arizona, where we are using their event managers to to register our mentored hunts or those type of events, and then that allows them to track the license buying habits as they relate to our event. So that's a pretty new opportunity for us. And then we also, Teresa mentioned the study with Mark Duda with responsive management earlier. That study started in 2007 and tracked participants, I believe it was until about maybe 2011. But we have applied for a multi-state grant to extend that longitudinal evaluation of those participants, as well as starting a new study for the programs that we have going on now, so that we'll be able to see and compare with this new national plan and the new types of events that we're hosting to see the difference in how those people feel about hunting and the other characteristics and participation rate and all that stuff that we track with it. And then we also have joined some other groups that are applying for a multi-state grant for a state dashboard, so that we have an easy way to look at state license data. And there's a lot of conversations going on amongst NGOs about what data we should be collecting. It's similar to the R3 scorecards that the states have. So before we get to questions, I just want to tell you a couple of things that we've learned. First of all, I'd say, we're just really getting started. Even though we started this journey in 2014, it's taken us several years to educate and train and evaluate. I think it's just a continuous process. My advice would be to be patient, because a lot of times we feel like we're moving at a snail's pace, but then if you take a broader look at it, we've actually made a lot of progress in these couple of years, and so patience is definitely needed here when working with these programs. We've also learned that implementing R3 and the national plan, there is no cookie-cutter solution. Particularly with an NGO, each state and chapter have different resources available to them, and so what works in one state may not work in another. We feel like our job is to provide information and templates and a space where our volunteers can share ideas and what's worked and what hasn't, and then allow them to adapt those ideas and make them work for their area.
And I'll come back and say, too, that, again, no one organization can tackle this alone. So it's going to take NGOs working together with state and wildlife agencies, CAF, to make a difference on our hunting heritage. We're seeing a lot of forward moves here. We're seeing people that are understanding more and more about R3 and what it means and what we have to do different to kind of align what we do with what other groups are doing. And it's exciting. I think it's an exciting time to be in working with an NGO, to see the different things come together like they are. We've got a lot of new hunters that are coming on board, and as Mandy shared about the cohort that we did, these folks came in so excited about what they were going to learn. And their first touch was with the South Carolina DNR. And so South Carolina DNR passed them on to us, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to pass them on to some other groups so that they can learn other game hunts and different things from them as well. So we appreciate all your efforts. I know that a lot of folks out there are doing things within their respective groups, and together I think we're going to make a big difference.
So with that,
all right.
Yeah, we're ready to take questions.
Yeah, everybody go ahead and ask questions in the chat box in the bottom right corner. I'm just going to kind of go down the list. We're going to get to as many as we can until 2 p.m. And then any leftover questions we'll send to Mandy and Teresa afterwards, and we'll get them in touch with you guys. So the first question we have is from Joanne, and it says, in the Grand Slam for Save the Hunt, how is it determined if 10-plus new hunters were recruited, and how are all of the new programs evaluated to determine success of the program?
Okay, that's a great question. So that I look at this, we do have protocol for reporting any of our accomplishments for all three of those goals, but also for Save the Hunt. And when we set up this protocol, we used a wide variety of NWTF volunteer staff, and then we also pulled in agency personnel to help us determine this. We look at NWTF-sponsored mentored hunts. The chapter hosts that mentored hunt, and anybody that attends that is a new hunter or a lapsed hunter would count towards our goal. And then if we partner with a state agency on those events, same thing, we would count that. Anytime an NWTF member mentors a new or lapsed hunter, we count that as well. And then we have hunter education as part of that. So if one of our volunteers teaches a hunter ed class, they can count 60% of those graduates towards our goal, since that is the national average of people that go on to buy a license. And those are the two metrics that we look at internally. We also count the license purchases through apprentice programs like the Family Fulfilled Initiative, where our chapter helped to pass that legislation. But what we're mainly focused on is NWTF behavior. A lot of times we get caught up in these numbers and how we count and that kind of thing, but what Teresa and I have always said from the beginning is we're really more concerned with changing behavior, and by that I mean transitioning these events that were just solely introduction events to giving people an opportunity to hunt.
Yeah, and I will say too that the first year after we launched the initiative, we've seen this grow year after year at our national convention and we offer national awards, and we saw majorly that our current events, the chapters were starting to transition their events more hunter-centric, and by that I mean if we had a Women in the Outdoors event that was kind of round-robin style where women could come and teach, not teach, but attend a variety of classes, we saw less crafty classes and more hunter-centric classes that would at least whet the appetite of somebody who's not currently a hunter. So, again, what Mandy shared is true. We're looking at changed behavior, which is what we're seeing, but we're also asking our volunteers to report on events that they host where those are new hunters or reactivated hunters.
You'd mentioned your national convention, and I had the pleasure to attend the past 2 years. It's a great convention, but you guys have a really cool awards banquet, and you guys kind of adjusted that and tweaked it a little bit. Can you guys kind of expand on that and explain the impact that's had on volunteer engagement and support for R3?
That's a great point, Marty. We went before our National Awards Committee and asked to adjust our awards for our hunting heritage programs to realign them with R3. So we still have some awards for, the most money raised, because after all, we are a conservation organization that depends on that. But we added awards for mentors or for R3 programming, so that we're rewarding the right types of events. And we saw an increase actually in the number of awards applications that we received, and that's also a great way for an NGO to figure out, what exactly people are doing in the field. It encourages them to send in a lot of pictures and stories and that kind of thing.
Great. Richard wants to know where he can get a copy of the nutrition guide you guys talked about in your presentation. Do you have a place where people can go to get that resource and then maybe some other resources as well?
We do. If you go to our website, nwtf.org, then you can click on Resource Library, and you can they have a menu of items to choose from and hunting heritage program. You can click there, and you can see all kinds of different templates and PowerPoints and flyers and things that we share with our volunteers and the public.
All right. Excuse me. Dean asks, does NWTF have any data on turkey hunters and their other interests in hunting and fishing? What other hunting and fishing opportunities should we market to turkey hunters? Any ideas?
NWTF doesn't specifically have that information, but we use the NSSF report, or industry reference guide. Has a lot of information about what hunters are interested in and what shooters are interested in. So we do use that data, but specifically NWTF hasn't done any research on that. But that's a good point.
Yeah. Cyrus wants to know, you mentioned in your presentation, you mentioned a meeting in Edgefield in September of this year. You mind giving a little more information about that?
Sure. We have partnering. It's called Partnering for Success, and it starts on Friday, September 15th, and runs through that Sunday, the 17th. We, on Saturday, will break out into several different classes, and you have the option to pick which ones you want to attend. But we'll have teaching the skill of shotgunning and teaching the skill of archery. So this is train the trainer. We also will have a mentored hunt workshop that will be led by one of our R3 coordinators. Hopefully Charles Evans will be there to lead that, and then Travis Sumner, who handles most of our mentored hunting here at NWTF. We'll have a partnering panel. We're also working with Matt Dunphy on some other ideas that we can incorporate. We have Ducks Unlimited and Pheasants Forever are partners on this, and we're hoping that we'll have some others come along as well. It's here at our Edgefield headquarters, where we'll also have the opportunity to shoot at the Palmetto Shooting Complex as well. Should be a fun weekend.
Great. You kind of mentioned it's kind of the R3, getting R3 into your culture at your organization is kind of a challenge. So is R3 something at the beginning that people push back against, or how did you overcome and get everybody on board with R3?
We were surprised that we didn't have a whole lot of pushback. And I think that's probably because there's some research that supports that. We've had our program specifically looked at, and so we've got the research to back that. But I think people, more than being, against the concept, they're more, they want to do the right thing, they just don't know where to start. So that's really what we've received, is how to get started, and what can I do to make sure that my programs are more effective at recruiting and retaining hunters.
Can I have your attention?
All right, so you had mentioned that you had piloted some programs, and some of them have been successful and maybe some of them haven't. How are you going to go forward with taking those successful piloted programs and turning it into a more broad program?
One of the things that we are trying to do, especially when we pilot stuff here, or we hear from our R3 coordinators in other states that have piloted an event that was a success, is we try to put that into a template form, maybe schedule of a class, information on how they went about advertising, where they found the targeted audience, how they advertised to them. So we like to put that kind of information into a template and share it among our chapters. Mandy and I attend a lot of our state leadership meetings as far as NWTF goes, and this gives us a perfect opportunity to showcase some of those success stories across the country and receive feedback from a lot of those that are there that are, asking those questions that we just talked about. They want to get started, or they want to transition an event that they're currently doing and they're not getting people to register for it, and they've had to cancel the event. If you go back a little bit to what we were talking about, sharing this information with our coordinators and with folks across the country who do local chapter events, I think most of the folks there are wanting to be educated on this kind of thing. They're not necessarily against it, but I think when it all comes down to it, you think about the folks who come to your events, you realize that in many cases it's the same people that come back year after year after year. So I think as far as NWTF goes, our volunteers are open. Learn what to do different, and providing those type of templates from success stories is a great help.
All right. So Joanne asks, after mapping your programs, did you decide to nix some of them and reallocate your resources to new programs?
So there's kind of a twofold answer to this, because we did this R3 workshop on a national level, and then our state Save the Hunt coordinators went back, and on a state and a local level, they mapped their own programming that's going on in the state. So nationally, I will say that we have, I wouldn't say that we necessarily nixed anything, but we did transition our focus here to these R3 programs. So, for instance, some of our emphasis had been on introductory shooting programs that we've learned those really already exist in lots of places. But again, nationally, it's hard for us to say what exists in each state or local level. So some of that responsibility is back on our state staff and volunteers to take a look and see what they want to put their funds towards. We've seen, people work with their other organizations in their state to say, okay, I'll take the introductory shooting program, and then I'll, pass on those participants if they're interested in taking the next step. Then we'll make that opportunity available at our event, and then you can take them, on the next step of that. And we have several examples of that. I can think of one off the top of my head in Missouri, where they have kind of a feeder program going on where the different organizations take turns being that introductory level or the mentored hunt, depending on what time of year it is, and it has seemed to work well. So definitely nationally we have a bit more emphasis on the R3 programs, but again, it's up to the state and local level what they put their funds and time towards.
All right, and we'll just do one more question here. How much is NWTF investing in R3 programs?
Well, that's kind of a tough question. We are investing, obviously, in the R3 positions that are taking place, with the state agencies, and of course our hunting heritage programs operating. The Jake's Lemon and Wheeland programs, and all the mentored hunts, and our staff. And the way our funding system is set up, after our chapters host a banquet, they keep a percentage of that money and are allowed to use that for conservation and hunting heritage programs. So they, again, they have the flexibility to invest that money into those programs that are approved. And we've seen our programs grow quite a bit. We were kind of concerned that maybe this would cause people to be too afraid to host an event because they're afraid their event wouldn't, recruit hunters or whatever. But that we have not seen that happen. I mean, people are still investing their money in it, and nationally, we're trying to invest in that infrastructure, that butt in the seat that Matt Dunphy so eloquently refers to.
I will also say that we're investing in training. So we are working to bring our Save the Hunt coordinators here. We also, some of that money that Mandy was talking about that goes into that state super outreach fund also goes toward training volunteers within that state.
And providing liability insurance and all of that for those events. So it's hard to, answer without including all these different aspects.
All right, great. Sounds like Sam sent a survey out that the second link should be working for you guys to take. We're just sending out a survey just to get some feedback from you guys, make sure that we're doing a good job and all of our content is still relevant and on point. Mandy and Teresa, thank you very much for presenting. We're going to have this webinar up on YouTube and posted to the nationalr3plan.com website. Get on there. You can hook up with any of these people that presented today. Just send them a little chat in the R3 website, and you can ask them questions or anything like that. We will have another webinar next month, so check the R3 newsletter and the R3 website for that. And other than that, thank you guys very much, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.